We're trying to work with
Oh, sorry there. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Flat Pack Show, episode 72, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Flatmeister. I just cut off my co-host, Nerdwaffle.
Shut up.
We unfortunately don't have Switchpoint and Crumplepoint with us. They had other stuff going on, but we have a very special.
They were too pointy for us.
Too pointy. We have a very special guest. We have Brian Shearer.
Howdy.
How are you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great. I hope you all are.
Oh, listen to that.
And everybody out there.
Listen to that bassy, deep radio voice. That voice was built for radio.
Yeah, I've got my little fancy pants set up here too. So I take advantage of my mic and my preamp that's totally overkill for YouTube.
Yeah, well. I have a shitty... well, it's not shitty. It's actually done wonders, but I just have a little tiny blue snowball.
Oh, yeah.
Blue Yeti. So yeah, Brian, would you like to tell us and the people at home a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a comic book artist, and I guess that's why I'm here. I worked for IDW for, 10 years, and I still do a little work with them here and there, but I worked on Doctor Who early on, and then G.I. Joe and Transformers forever. And now I am moving out to doing my own thing with Indiegogo and crowdfunding and seeing if I can sustain doing my own books instead of doing other people's stuff. So that's kind of me, career-wise, art-wise. That's where I come from. And right now I'm doing a big giant robot story on Indiegogo.
Yeah, how are you finding that with... Did you say you have worked on Transformers before, haven't you?
Yeah. I worked on mostly inks on Transformers for a long time, on Robots in Disguise and More Than Meets the Eye. And then on G.I. Joe was I got spoiled on G.I. Joe because I worked on that for 5 or 6 years every month, which is pretty unheard of in comics these days to be on a book that long. But they rearranged, like they're shaking things up, like they rebooted the Transformers universe, and then they shook up the creative teams, and work's been getting spottier and spottier. And I was like, if I'm ever gonna make the leap, it's probably about time to do it.
Yeah. So how did you find that with having worked on Transformers and then going on to this indie project, the Gunship Thunderpunch?
Yeah, I love big robots, and I grew up with Transformers and all the like space battleship Yamato and all that stuff, ships and robots and things. And then like G.I. Joe and Transformers were my two favorite things growing up. So I just happened to career-wise be able to work on those two projects. So I kept trying to get penciling work on Transformers, like they've been sending in stuff, and it's just been the thing that I found in comics in general is if you break in as an inker or a colorist or whatever you break in as, it's really hard to get out of that, because especially if you're doing your job well, because it's like it's a machine. You get put in and do your job, and then if you're working, you're not the squeaky wheel. And I started getting some penciling stuff here and there, and did covers and some odd issues here and there. But it's like at this point, I think just to get the robot thing out of my system, I'm like, why don't I just do my own giant robot story? And so I've been working on it. I had an idea for a space futuristic thing with robots and ships and things. And so kind of nailed that story down and launched it on Indiegogo. So
yeah, I love it's got a sort of nostalgic feeling to the art style. Really sort of takes me back to when I was a kid.
Yeah, it takes me back to when I actually enjoyed Transformers. I don't know, but like I couldn't get into some later series, and like for me, pretty much my limits as a Transformers fan was like G1, and like Beast. Well, in Canada we call it Beasties, but in the US it's called Beast Wars. That was my extent. Plus, actually, I've seen the comics you've worked on, and I was like, that's fantastic. And of course, the video game, the Transformers video game they had there. I think
Oh, the
Devastation.
G1. Oh yeah, Devastation. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of simpler designs, and
Yeah,
like when the Michael Bay stuff movies came along, I just think those that they tried to make everything look real, like it would really work, and
yeah.
just good character design and clear, um, just being able to tell who's who and what's what. It just I did not like it. So I'm going back to like more simple, um, fun, easily you can easily tell what's what, who's who, what's going on, and anything that is more like with Transformers, especially anything G1, even if it's and IDW did a good job because all the characters were G1 based, but they're kind of updated and
Yeah,
not goofy cartoony, but they had you could um, see
they
gears and
they had the
things, but
soul
yeah,
of Transformers with a new, like, it was basically like they took a broken down car
yeah.
from the past and they shined it up and made it look shiny and new.
Yeah,
Is what
yeah. That's
I got from it.
so I'm trying to do a book that's more, it's fun, it's adventure, it's got sci-fi stuff. It's not dark and gritty thematically, but it's not stupid. It's not like a goofy cartoony. I want to do something that you can read and then you can hand off to your kids, your nephews, and everybody can kind of come on board and just enjoy a good story and see some big robots and explosions along the way.
Yeah, I love the.
I won't like it until I see a guy in a wheelchair. Not anything against people in wheelchairs, but Transformers fans will get this.
Chip
Okay,
Chip Chase.
until I see a guy in a wheelchair rip a 3-inch floppy disk in
Right,
half.
yeah, yeah.
That's when I will enjoy your comic.
I remember that episode.
Yeah.
He pulls it out and rips it in half. He had some upper arm strength. I'll give him that.
Wasn't that was the episode where, if I remember, I can't remember the full episode, but I remember when I was a kid, I loved Soundwave,
Mhm.
but I think he was going after Chip
Yeah.
for the floppy disk, and it was one of my favorite episodes. And then all of a sudden, I had a nightmare about Soundwave coming after me and kidnapping me and shit, and his voice, and I was like, oh my god, I couldn't watch Transformers for a little bit, but I was like a young kid or whatever,
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why you gotta commit that, formula to your memory like Chip did.
Yeah.
You don't need the
Yeah.
disc.
So I love about these pictures, like of this robot at the front here. Like you can see all the detail of like the joints in the knuckles
Mhm.
of the fingers of the fist, and like that big. I'm not even sure what that is on his shoulder. Is that like a power cell, or is that like a?
Yeah, it's like a nacelle for his, when he's in ship mode. It's like the engine.
So everything all looks really functional. I'm very much getting like the Sentinels from the
Mhm.
Matrix, the sort of
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the squiddies. From this one, I've just brought up on the stream here.
Oh, yeah, the little crab/octopus bot.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really cool. Really, getting sort of the Sentinel vibes from that, and then these mech tanks. Like there's like a spider tank.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those are the Martians. The Martians are all kind of insect, crab kinda designs, just kinda separate them from the Earth ships.
And like all of the different sort of moving parts, they all look really functional. Like like this that missiles could come
Yeah.
out of this.
It was really hard designing those too. I'm marginally familiar with like just true Japanese mech stuff, and but not really so much like if there are games or whatever. I'm not big into gaming. I'm kind of outdated, but I would go on a live stream and I would just get a big fat Sharpie and I would just I'm trying to work out shapes for these machines. And I would hit on one and somebody in the chat would go, that's such and such from blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? I've never heard of that. And I would go and I'd Google it and it would be spot on. I'm like, oh, Japan, you're taking everything. So it took me forever. And then finally, I think the thing that broke it was just kind of basing it on nature and basing it on more on just kind of, insects and kind of playing off that. And yeah, it's tough. That's the trouble with doing a big robot is trying to not make it look like a generic transformer because everything's been done. It seems so. It's Thunder Punch is Transformer-y. It doesn't look too much like any specific Transformer. People say he has kind of a Omega Supreme head. I think it's the Egyptian chin that I gave him, that little kind of
Yeah.
jutting thing. But I think he's unique enough that then he'll have enough character that it won't be, it won't feel like a Transformer, So
Yeah, I'm reading some of it that's on the Indiegogo page, and you can tell by the way he talks, he's definitely not Omega Supreme there.
Yeah, definitely not. He's got personality. Omega was kind of deadpan.
Yeah, Omega Supreme was I don't know, kind of a weird guy.
Very stoic. He was a very stoic character.
Or just this person in a spacesuit, and he's got his helmet on in space, but he's got a cigar in his mouth.
Yeah, but he's only chewing on it. He's not smoking it in the suit.
He's just chewing it.
So I want to ask, because I might show somewhere in here, but can people ride him?
Yes. That sounded really dirty, Corey.
Well, yeah. In Transformers world, we know exactly what you mean. Yeah, he's a ship. He's a gunship, and people can be inside of him in both modes in the little area. And it sounds weird to say that out loud, but I don't know a good way to say it. I got to work on that one. It's the family book, people. The family book.
Yeah, well, you can say people really ride him.
Yeah,
no, yeah, it looks really cool. I like the guy with the scar, with the cross scar on his face.
Yeah, he was the commander a few decades before. So the story is that Earth and Mars are at war, and there's Martians kidnap the main character, Nova Marcos, her son, and to get him back, she has to find this abandoned gunship to go rescue him. But the catch is the only person that knows where the ship is and how to get it started and reactivated is the commander who commanded it years before, but he's serving a life sentence in prison. So she's got to bust him out and find the ship that's been abandoned in a junkyard for 30 years. And the ship, Thunder Punch, is not too happy about having been abandoned for so long. So he got some animosity between the former commander and the ship, and then her and him, and she's got to get this little ragtag team together and go off and save her son from Martians.
Yeah, this page here, he goes, "You left me to rust." That looks really intimidating, just being that small of a person, and then just having this huge robot square up to you, sticking his face right in front of you.
Yeah, he's big. He's a big ship.
Yeah, I was just looking down, like trading cards you've got set for your stretch
goals.
That's
really cool.
Yeah, we just 20,000, the trading card goal. We met that earlier this week, and so every book will come with a trading card set. And I don't know I'm still working out the 25K goal. I'll probably hit that. I got 14 days left. I think we can do that. So still working out those other stretch goals, and I got to update the perks, maybe some new perks here in the next day or two. So it is a nearly a full-time thing just running an Indiegogo. It is constant promotion and figuring out stretch goals, and every time you do a stretch goal or perk, you got to do an image, and so it's it's anybody out there that wants to do an Indiegogo, you got to put your hours in. It's definitely not easy.
Yeah, I see all these different campaigns, and it's a shame that some of them get overlooked. Sometimes the creator hasn't put like you said, put the effort in. Yeah,
and I think the trick, or the trick, it's not a trick, but it's in order for these to work, you've really got to put in the front end work of building up your audience and being visible, and that can be. It probably took, I started a YouTube channel probably 2 years ago, and I've been on social media forever, but it's really been in the last year leading up to this, where I've really been developing a regular live stream schedule and going on other people's shows who have a bigger audience, and just kind of being yourself, and being a little, just offering something, whether it's entertainment or explaining how you do something, being helpful in some way, and
Yeah.
making people want to come back to you, and doing that for, a year, and then dropping hints. Well, I'm working on this book. I got this coming up. And then when the book hits, if you've connected with any way with an audience, those first few days will tell you, because the people we hit, I keep saying we, it's me. But the reason actually I say we is because I really do view the crowdfunding thing. It's like everybody, we're all
Yeah.
kind of, I can't do it myself. So when everybody came in the first 2 days with me, we hit 10K at within 24 hours. And after about 3 days, usually every campaign slows down a bit. But what I've realized is that first 2 or 3 days, that's the thermometer that you're putting in your efforts, and it tells you how well you've connected with people, how soon they come in. And if you get funded really quick, then you've done a good job. And then after that, you got to go find your new audience. Like, okay, here's where we're at, and got to figure out ways to reach people that haven't heard about it yet. So, um, I think a lot of people drop the ball because they think, and most people have done this in the past with like Kickstarters. I mean, I did it. I've done it in the past where you just launch the project and you go and you do the best you can. Maybe you get funded, maybe you don't. But in order for the whole kind of self-publishing business model with crowdfunding to work, you've got to put in the months, maybe a year, building up that first project. Or otherwise, it's going to be hit or miss. And even if it's hit, it's not going to be, all that great. You might go over a little bit, but it's definitely a hustle. You got to think like you're the factory, you're the marketer, you're the PR person, you're the accountant, and it's more of a business kind of mindset than just the traditional. Oh, I drew this. Would somebody like
Yeah.
to buy it?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get stuck there because I think yeah, it's kind of new territory. Like a lot of guests we've had on have said how much of new territory it is to start crowdfunding.
Hmm.
Like they thought, okay, I'm going to make a page and I'm going to put my stuff on it, and then it's just going to get funded, which isn't a bad way to think. That's a normal probably way, like brain
Hmm.
process, right? But
Yeah.
then a lot of them are like, oh shit, like it was a lot different than that.
Yeah.
As
Yeah. And I started, I mean, you need to start, I think, with something simple. Like do something, a small goal, do a floppy and single self-contained story. Don't try to do like ongoing things, but initially just do like a single one-off, get it funded, get it fulfilled. You learn what works, what doesn't. You learn shipping mistakes and things, and then do. So I did a single issue in 2015 on Kickstarter, got that funded. Then I did 100 page art book last year on Kickstarter, and that got funded. That was kind of my graphic novel size trial run. And so now I'm ready. And both of those projects were done before I launched. So it was just pushing it. And so this is the first time where it's like, all right, this is basically the pitch for this book that I want to make. Do you all want to pre-order it? And and it was kind of a gamble, because if it's like if I get just the funding amount, that would have been barely enough to get it done, and uh as fast as I can, and then go on to the next thing. But we're at the point now where it's like, okay, I can now get this book done, spend the time it needs to do it, turn it around, get it shipped, and then do the next thing, which maybe a gunship too. I'm thinking about doing maybe a trilogy or something. So you're constantly thinking. You got to think in terms of the next step. Where do you want to go next? So start small, do the next thing, build up your audience, fulfill it. That's important too. I know guys, and I read uh, guys that have done Kickstarters and made lots of money, and then it's 5 years later and people are still waiting for their book. And in the meantime, they've launched another one. It's like, no, 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 no.
yeah,
First of all, that's long term. That's a bad business model. You are going to
that's
fail.
that's a fast track to 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 sinking essentially.
Yeah, and I don't know how they get away with it, except maybe they're bringing in new people. But yeah, I've seen it multiple times, where fairly well-known artists, and artists, like they just it just falls through. And if or they all of a sudden you see that book is being printed somewhere else, but the backers haven't gotten it, or so it's yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, I think that it. I think it will. If it hasn't yet, I think it will backfire on them at some point. It
Yeah.
might not be today. It might not be tomorrow, but it will. It will hit hard because I think that even if they get away with it now, like even if you don't see a lot of people who are doing it getting caught, I think they're lucky that it's still a fairly new thing. Like it's a
Yeah.
few years old, but it's I think once I think eventually people will be like, yeah, I'm sick of this shit, and I'm not trusting that person again. The same way, like it's the same thing with any business. Like there's businesses out there that get away with
Hmm.
things for so long, and
Yeah.
then like I
It's
come
a
from a small town, and I've been in big cities, and it's funny because I thought big cities aren't going to be as word of mouth as small place I grew up, but it's a human thing. It's word of mouth. People talk to each other.
Yeah, and comics and comic fandom is like a small town. I mean,
Yeah,
especially among pros, it's like everybody kind of knows each other or knows who other people are. And if you want to grow, you cannot do that to your audience or a customer base. It will eventually, catch up with you.
We've got a regular watcher of the show, Jay, has said the art style kind of reminds me of an old graphic novel he read called The Woods.
I'm not familiar with that.
No,
Who
I'm
was
not.
the
I'm not familiar with
artist?
that.
I'm not familiar with it either.
I'll have a quick look on Google. But he says he really
Yeah.
likes Gunship Thunderpunch. Really
Oh,
likes it.
thank you. Thanks. It's gonna be a fun book. I'm looking forward to doing the whole thing and getting it out, and hope people like it.
I love all the different like all of the human characters all look really distinct and different. Like this, is that the inmate with the cross
Yeah,
scars
that's
on
him.
his face? Yeah, he looks
Mhm.
like he's done some time and yeah, it's a scumbag.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I like
does
that.
he? I don't know if this is spoilers or not. So if it is, don't feel free not to answer. But is he sort of on their team? Is he sort of like the reformed?
I will say there's a huge story arc that's kind of his redemption story, so to speak. So,
Okay,
but he is at odds with just about everybody in the beginning.
interesting. Very interesting.
See. So just looking up the Woods. I don't want to look on Amazon. I just want to look.
You can't look.
Serialized by James Tinian the Fourth.
Don't know that name either.
with art by Michael Dialanis.
See, I'm gonna look it up myself here. The Woods. Okay. Images. Oh, okay. I see here. Interesting. Michael. Yeah, I don't know that name.
Yeah, it's quite a tongue twister of a name. By Boom Studios, he says. I don't know.
Yep.
Did I search up the? But yeah, I highly recommend people that are watching to check out Brian's Kickstarter. Sorry, Indiegogo, not
Indiegogo.
not Kickstarter. Sorry.
Yeah,
Cheese flat.
you can go to gunshipthunderpunch.com. Will take you straight to the Indiegogo.
Yeah, we always try and get creators on that to make sure that they've still got plenty of days left on their Indiegogo. We try to sort of get them on as soon as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I mean, every Indiegogo has its life cycle. It starts out strong, then it goes through the middle part is slow, and at the end, especially as Indiegogo, it gets put up on the ending soon. You get that burst at the end. So, the that middle part is the part when you have to get out there and just keep pushing it, and you feel like you're so tired of talking about it. It's like, oh, I don't want to say mention it again. Am I annoying people or whatever? And I thought, as much as I was putting the link out and retweeting people that had tweeted about it, I thought, man, I'm just going to lose a bunch of Twitter followers. But my Twitter follower, I got more, which was surprising. And a friend of mine's son, who I didn't even know he followed me, he said, I heard about Thunder Punch because it was trending in my trending thing. Like, because so many people in the circles were tweeting. I was like, really? Oh, okay. So, yeah, the whole dynamics of social media, apparently I don't understand, even though I've been on it for 10 years or more.
I think social media kind of works like how Google Plus wanted to work out,
Yeah.
but didn't, but failed miserably.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think it sort of works in the sense of you have circles, and then those circles share, and then other circles pick it up.
Yeah. Google did not. Google tried to manufacture that, and it did not work.
They tried to put it in plain sight, and people are like, "Oh, I can see the nakedness of it."
Yeah.
I'm loving these tiers that you're doing, like the everything plus 11 times 17 drawings.
Oh yeah. The bigger
the big $500.
Yeah, that's one I did learn because I had on my art book. I didn't limit anything. I just had like 9x12 ink, 9x12 color, and then 11x17 color drawings. And I had everybody could choose what they wanted, and I fulfilled like the bottom tiers really quick. But when I got to those color ones, that thing ground to a halt, especially the 11x17. So on this one, I'm like, all right, 20 of them. That's it.
Oh, that's well worth the money, though. $500. I mean, you're getting a proper volume book of all of your artwork. Is that like concept art as well as sort of?
Yes, it's just drawings, covers, work in process, commission, just anything that I've been doing kind of in the margins of my time over the years had built up. And yeah, I think it's at 116 pages. It's a nice thick book.
Wow, so it does look impressive, and you're getting good quality, like even with concept art and little sketches here and there. Your art is top notch, and
well, thank you.
And like we say, hell of a lot better than what's coming out of the big two.
Right.
We always say that you can really tell the passion that you have, the real effort that you go into putting into little details in your drawings, your illustrations.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's I mean, I've always been. Most of those were done like after doing the paying work all day, and I guess I have a problem because I'll wind down from a day of drawing by drawing. But it really is just more of a mental, like when you're focused on a project, there's very tight parameters, no matter what it is. It has to be this genre or this thing. But at the end of the day, just to relax, just whatever comes in your head, playing with different styles is kind of relaxing. So a lot of that book is that people remark, oh, there's so many different styles. It's like, well, it's just because I'm just playing. It's just playing with colors and form and styles and things. So just trying to stretch myself a bit and teach myself new things.
And you're well, I don't know, I'm speaking for myself, but you kind of like in the zone with it. I find too, like I remember when I worked at a call center, I did not want to touch a computer when I got home. When I'm a plumber now, and when I come home, I don't want to see.
You don't want to go to the bathroom?
I don't want to do anything at all. No, okay, it's not that bad. I don't want to do labor work when I get home. I just want to veg. When I was in, this is gonna sound silly. I was in I was in animation school for a year. I would draw, and I would want to draw after I drew, kind of thing. Because we'd be learning like the walk cycle and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, draw cape in this guy. He's like a crazy box guy with a cape. And I'd draw more with that and come up with ideas. That's actually where I developed Robot Zero, actually, the character for it. And so then same with film. Like when I was in film school, because I switched from animation to film, I wanted to go home and make my own movies. Like I think there's something about the creative fields that is different than other ones in the sense of um, you're all day long you're still doing what you love to do and practicing at it and
Hmm.
stuff like that. But then when you finally get time to stretch your brain and stuff, you're like, okay, well I'm warmed up now and I can kind of now that
Yeah.
I've done other people's stuff, I can finally release all that ideas and creativity I had into my own stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely just, I think, really working a different part of your mind and your brain, and it's just that sense of freedom that, oh, I don't have to just do this walk cycle or just
Yeah.
do this thing anymore. I can do whatever I want. You're like, oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah. That's yeah. And I think that's a creative thing because I was roommates with a guy who actually worked at an animation company, and he would just well, he had his own office set up because he could work from home,
Hmm.
and he would just I'd be doing my thing all day or whatever, time for him to get off work or whatever, and he's still in there. I'm like, I'd just pop in and be like, hey, what's going on? And he'd just show me what was what was going on and stuff. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you're working on your own stuff. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a weird thing, I think, but as long as it is, sometimes your mind just needs change in some way, and it's almost as good as taking a break. Like, if it's just for me, just getting up and going to a coffee shop and working, you getting out of the studio, suddenly I get more done.
Yeah.
Just because your tricks your mind, I think, into thinking, oh, it's just different, and I think it heightens your awareness or energizes you or something. But and I think just
Yeah.
again at the end of the day, doing, even though you're mechanically, yeah, you're just moving the pen across the paper. It's like you've been doing all day. Mentally, it's so different that it's a little, it's a little re-energizing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what sort of things do you like in the creative process? What sort of things get you the creative juices flowing? Sort of thing.
Well, I mean, obviously, like looking at other artists and the good art, but also for me, like when I'm doing stories, if I go on a long jog or something, I come up with story ideas, and just I think it's just that mental state of, you got your headphones in and you're just not really thinking about, your mind's wandering, and changing location, like I said, helps, and then the best thing is just not being stressed. Make sure you budget time to just play, because I mean, kind of that's what I think making story and things. There is that element of play, especially when you're onto something good. So,
Hmm.
like if it's a scene or if it's trying to work out something, get out of thinking about all the panels, right? Oh, this page, this panel. Just start doodling, like
Hmm.
just start drawing stuff, and then as things come up, and then think, how would I fit this? How would I, crop this into a panel? How would I format this into? So I really feel like you take you've got your structure, your 3 act structure, story wise. You've got good principles of design, and then around that framework, just play. Like
Hmm.
just um, don't put so much pressure on yourself that it becomes a burden, because I don't think you do your best work when you're under that kind of stress.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
try to keep it, when, and this is something that I don't always do very well, but I do find that I do better work when it's not last minute. If I've
Hmm.
got a deadline or something, um, make sure you've got that space, because if you feel constricted, you're not going to feel as free just to play.
Hmm.
So that's pretty important. It's hard to do. It's easy to say, but it's hard to do, especially when you've got other obligations and family and things. But
Yeah.
that's always the struggle.
Yeah. 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 So I would almost say that like something I always say, which kind of seems like it fits that is that you are your best self when you are able to be yourself. So just draw how you sort of want or whatever. Draw what you want.
Hmm. Well, that's one of the things that, quality wise, with me, I took a leap forward, because for years I was drawing how I thought I ought to draw to get work at Marvel and DC. Because back, coming up, that was what everybody wanted to do. Oh, you're gonna
Yeah.
do comics. Well, they're the kind of the top, so that's where you head. And then for me, being that kind of drawing in a way I thought I should draw. I mean, I got better and I was doing okay, but everything kind of seemed stiff and whatnot. And at a certain point, and maybe it was just through frustration of not really getting anywhere, you know, where I wanted to be career wise. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna draw like I want to draw. And I tend to be a little more fun slash cartoony and whatnot, not hyper realistic, gritty superhero style. And so I just started drawing how I wanted to draw and didn't give a crap. And all of a sudden, I started getting better. And somebody asked me, I had several people come up to me at shows and friends, and they're like, "What did you do that you took this leap forward?" And I told them exactly. I was like, "I quit drawing how I thought I ought to draw, and I drew how I wanted to draw." And that's
Yeah.
what kind of was the breakthrough.
I found that too. The funny thing is that like I'm having trouble coming back, but like when I was in uh junior high school, I drew my whole life, but I started drawing heavily in junior high school and high school. And I thought I was making a lot of progression, and then I went into art class at high school, and I started to make slight progressions in certain ways.
Hmm.
But I felt like in certain ways I sort of half plateaued at the same time.
Yeah.
And then when I went into animation school, which um, again, I didn't want to be an animator, but I was young and stupid and thought that's what I wanted to do, and when I really wanted to illustrate. But um, I found that when I went to animation school, I learned all the proper ways of doing things. I learned the the proper uh, science behind it and stuff like that. The how to break down things, and we did life drawing and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But I found that like, and I was somebody who loved superheroes and stuff like that, so I draw the muscle bound people and the
Hmm.
whatever. And remember one specific teacher I had in 2D animation was like, it was almost like, um, don't draw that way. That's not the
Hmm.
proper way to draw if you want to get into Disney. And I was like, well, I don't really want to get into Disney. I want to get into Marvel and DC and all that fun. And she, they sort of we're a little bit more shovey, and I was supposed to draw a certain way. And
Yeah.
I felt like in certain ways my art was getting better in the sense I understood the principle behind the correct ways of doing it, but at the same time my own art style was still trying to shine through but clashing with other kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and it just all looks like a mess, and I haven't been able to recover from that since. I feel like so I understand exactly what you're saying there.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I mean, you gotta definitely it's a balance between both, like learning the correct rules of like how do you actually draw a person that looks right, looks like a person.
Perspective and
Yeah, perspective and all that. But at the same time, what style are you gonna head in? How are you gonna and then that's when, that's kind of up to you, but you got to
yeah.
build on that framework.
Because even sometimes the most like just simple design and style works. It all
Hmm.
depends on like the tone and atmosphere of the story as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it does. And that's, I mean, it's good to be flexible too and kind of you know draw things different, like with Thunder Punch, I'm drawing it like the way you see on the Indiegogo, but I'm doing another book right now that Antarctic Press is publishing, and William the Last, and it's more of a cartoony organic kind of thing. I mean, I think you can still tell it's me, but it's just a different style. Than It's a fantasy book than this one, but it's still, even when artists do different styles, I think you can still tell that it was that artist.
Yeah, but that's something really unique and cool about artists too, is that like you can take a look at it and you can say, yeah, this looks different, but wait, this looks familiar. oh, this is Brian Shearer,
Hmm.
and he's I really liked his other comic kind of thing. It's cool to see him do another style and looks really good and looks like his.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it's just, it's one of those things that, and again, I think a lot of people get hung up on style. Like, what's my style going to be? And it's like, just draw,
Yeah.
just learn to draw and style. If you read any artists, great artists, they all say the same thing. It's like, don't worry about style, just learn to draw and draw. And that kind of emerges because you're a unique person and you're bringing all these different things to the table. So,
Yeah, I really feel like you don't really have a choice on what your style is. Your style is
mhm.
whatever you put on the paper.
Yeah.
I saw that in animation school too. I like a few people were just like, yeah, I need to pick a style. Am I going to be Japanese anime or am I going to be this? And it's like,
Yeah.
um, I didn't tell him this, but another teacher told him. Teacher told him, yeah, you're just if you draw, that's going to be your style.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
draw
Yeah.
that way. Simple as that.
Yeah, and everybody early on, everybody starts out by imitating and copying, and that's just how you, whether it's music or art. I mean, imitation is the first step, and so I'll talk to high school kids, and they're all manga, anime, and that's fine to start that way. But
Mm.
eventually, if they're really into drawing, they're going to start develop, like they're going to learn how to draw a person for real. They're going to learn why people that draw manga are drawing people that way. And then as they learn, it'll always be an influence, but they won't be carbon copying all
Yeah.
those people and those things. So,
Mm. I was just looking at the William the Last, and there's this one particular panel. I think it's was it someone fighting in the street or something? Is it?
let's see, which one is it?
Is it I think they go outside and it goes. It's Thorfinn.
Oh yeah, he's dead.
Oh, is he dead? And there's this guy. The crowd all turn around and go. The jawline on this guy.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's a strong jaw.
yeah. It's just being, let me play with shapes and just be
Mm.
cartoony and
Yeah, all of the people look different. Like you've got this guy with a pig nose. There's I love this guy with the red hair and the what they called mutton chops.
oh yeah, the mutton chops. Yeah, that's
Mutton chops beard.
just trying to make a character look like a character and not
Mm.
just a sea of people that look identical.
Mm. Yeah, everyone looks really distinct.
And that's a good thing about keeping a sketchbook and just doodling too. You'll build up a character library
Mm.
over time that you can kind of reference. And I need a character, and let me see
Mm.
what I've doodled in the past. Maybe I can pull somebody out of there.
Yeah. I think you've done this at on a couple of panels. It was like a dialogue between two characters. It was between the guy with the red hair, and also there was the little boy and the man smoking a
Hmm.
pipe. It's got a
Hmm.
black background, and it's just got their silhouette. And I really
Yeah,
like that it's just those two there. They're in their conversation and
yeah.
complete.
I think it's a really powerful storytelling thing, and it breaks up the monotony of a conversation,
Mm,
and it just kind of because there's so many comics now where it's a lot of talking heads, and you got to have to a certain point, you got to have people talking to each other. I mean, it's a
yeah,
story, but figuring out ways to I'm looking at the panel you're looking at, like the next one I'm looking over his shoulder. You're kind of moving the camera around and trying to do it in an interesting visual way that's not boring.
exactly. It really breaks up the whole page, doesn't it?
Hmm.
With all these
Yeah.
different panels, and then your eye is just drawn to this, where they're
Hmm.
deep in conversation, just the two of them, and it's completely blacked out everyone around them. Yeah,
Yeah, and you can do it with action as well. So.
yeah, it's really effective. Like here again,
So do you so what kind of so for people who want to get into this and stuff like that, what kind of do you draw this by hand or do you do this digitally or is there sort of programs you use or anything?
Well, I mean, I've gone back and forth on William Last. Right now, I'm doing it all digital to do it faster. Eh, I use Clip Studio Paint mostly at this point. Um, and I'll still do traditional. Like with Thunder Punch, I'm going to do part of it because one of the tiers is getting original art, and uh, I depending on how many people opt into that tier will determine how many original art pages I do and how much is digital. Because being a graphic novel length book, I need to do it as fast as I can without sacrificing quality, and digital lets you do that. But I also wanted to have something, a few select pages where your people can have something from it. So I'm kind of going back and forth with that. There's definitely there's trade-offs with traditional versus digital. I mean, edits are easier. If you draw a character and I drew the head too big, you just select and make it bigger. Just drag it up, or this arm is a little wonky. You can move it over. You can make adjustments without having to erase the whole thing, or erase this and rescan and all that. So, but there is, I think, if you do it digital, then you can't. There's nothing physical in the world to hand off to somebody, to be connected with that project, or if, from a business standpoint, to sell and have some more income. But it's
I
just
find. Sorry, go ahead.
no. But for me, like with Thunder Punch, like the most important thing is the book. So it's like I just want to get the story, and the story is more important. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I myself, I've been finding that with I have more control when I draw it with a pencil, but it's not as polished and like easy to edit as digitally. So
yeah.
is that something like you're saying that with digital, with the whole, you can recrop the head or whatever, and
Yeah, exactly. It's especially with doing robots too. It's nice to have that option just to tweak things on the fly and not without having to erase and re-erase. If you got a hard
yeah,
angle to do. Yeah, it's again, it has its advantages, and you can do things, I think, easier physically on paper than you'll spend a lot of time trying to find that right brush or whatever setting to pull off that thing you could do really quickly, on a piece of paper. But um, yeah, it is nice to have options, to
yeah.
be able to do both of them.
So going along that lines too, if somebody came up to you and said, "Listen, I don't know anything about comics or whatnot, but I really like them. I have some cool ideas. How do I get started? How do I do what you do? Do you have any advice for that? What would be the something you would immediately tell them? Maybe it's a younger you, or maybe it's somebody
Mhm.
completely different, or a friend or family member. What would you recommend to them do to sort of help them get started, kind of thing?
I would say one, it really is true to be good at comics, you have to make comics. And I've get a project, whether you're working with a friend or you're writing it yourself, or whatever, but do a beginning to end comic, and then do another one, and then do another one, and don't worry initially about making money. I mean, that's the thing. Everybody wants to be able to do this and make it their career, but you've got to have a long term goal. It's the long game. You've got to develop your craft. Um, I would also say start developing your people skills. Stop arguing on Twitter. You need to be positive, and unfortunately you have to have social media as an artist. I mean, you really do. And it can be a big dumpster fire. And I have friends that get on there and they're just in the middle of everything and they're arguing. I actually don't have that big of a problem on Twitter because I really do think it's what you make it. If you're in there and you're going to stoke the flames, then there's going to be a fire. And if you're in there for being professional and being yourself and once in a while someone will say something to you, but you quickly realize that the the drama people are a smaller group, but they're very loud.
Mm.
And and because of that, it's also, I think you can set yourself apart just by being a decent person. Um, so, try to make sure you're get started now building up that audience. So when you are ready to launch a crowdfunded or whatever,
Mm.
you've kind of got that group behind you that's rooting for you and wants to help you along. But also, get books and study anatomy, study perspective as best you can. Keep working at the fundamentals, and the biggest thing is just be patient. I mean, I from the time I first showed anything to an editor till I got a job, my first job was probably 8 years, and I needed a lot of work. I mean, I needed to iron out a bunch of things, and then even after that, it was probably 3 4 years after that that I went full time.
Mm.
But it was a very long, working other jobs and the frustration of that, and then getting better, and then kind of you feel like you're stagnating, and all that's normal. So surround yourself with some good people that are better than you that can help you, and you know, it's just it's a long process unless you're some whiz kid that comes along, and that happens every once in a while.
Like
But
Flatmeister.
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
But even then, even for the whiz kid, it's like I know a lot of people that are really talented, but don't really have much of a work ethic, or they've neglected another part, like the social media
Mm.
or whatever. So it's like I would rather have the moderately talented person that works hard, that's good at the other stuff, than the super talented person that's just lazy in every other regard, or is spending all their time just harassing people online and arguing back and forth. It's like you've got to make sure all those different points you're being the total package on, and
Mm.
trying to get good at. So it's doable. It just takes time.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, there's been some creators who I've seen on YouTube, like on Twitter, sorry, not YouTube. He went, it was like quite a passive aggressive tweet. I can't remember I can't even remember the guy's name anyway. But he said, "Oh, thanks, Comicsgate. You really pulled through when I needed you." And he said, "Oh, my Kickstarter failed," and people were like, "Oh, we didn't hear about your Kickstarter. Like, what's it called?"
Yeah.
And then I tweeted him and said, "Oh, I didn't hear about your Kickstarter. I run a show. Do you want to come on and talk about your comic?" And then he started giving me excuses like, "Oh, well, I got work and my family and my kids, and oh, I don't really know, like, technology wise, like how I'd get on a live." I'm like,
Well,
and then
there's where you went wrong.
and then it wasn't until like about an hour later I thought, do you know what? No, I'm not gonna bother like offering to have him on the show if he's gonna have this sort of sense of entitlement and not actually had done the hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. There is kind of an expectation that
Mm.
the more, because the reason that Indiegogo's gotten better is because not because creators are using it, it's because the readers have accepted it as a valid kind of basically pre-order delivery system, right? It's kind of replacing shops in one sense. I mean, people are still going to shops, but for connection with getting an indie book, they found, okay, this is a good way. We've kind of come into this. And as more of them get successful, there are creators who think, oh, all I've got to do is put it up. So and so will say something about it, and all the money and the people come in. It's like, no, that's not how it works. People want to connect with you as a creator, and they want to get to know you, and then and then if they like you, they want you to succeed. That's the model.
Yeah.
And it's not oh, this group or that group failed me. It's like, no, you don't have an audience. That's the problem.
It definitely helps networking with people, and that's why.
Oh, absolutely.
That's why I'm really glad that me and Nerd Waffle and Switchpoint and Crupple, that we network and build up this sort of web of all of these creators that come on, and they perhaps get in contact with the other creators that we've had on, and sort of building that network, and obviously with the audience as well.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do. I mean, you talk to other creators. If you're friendly and you're a decent person and you keep showing up, eventually somebody that has a bigger audience than you will say, "Hey, why don't you come on and hang out with us for a while?" And you kind of build up that way. And then the important thing too is you're coming up. If there's a creator that doesn't have a big as audience as you need to bring them up with you. So it's not a zero sum game. It's when other people do well, you'll do well, and so that's kind of the. And there's a lot of people that are trying to think, well, I got to climb on top of this person or that person to succeed. And it's like, well, if it's just you, the whole thing falls apart because this is a crowdfunding. This is everybody kind of together. It's not it's not you're not trying to step on people to succeed. And you might succeed in the short term, but in the long term, I don't know that that's a good thing.
Because you never know who's going to come along. You never know if they're going to just be like hit it big or something. Like if you're thinking of it in a totally selfish standpoint, this is what I'm talking about. But if you're doing that, you never know if this person's going to become a huge success and you stepped over them. They're going to remember that and they're going to be like, "Oh, hey, you need my help now?"
Yeah,
well,
less likely to help you.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I can hear you scribbling away.
Was that me?
Is that the I can? Either it's just the mic. I can hear.
Oh, I think it's the mic. Yeah, my actually, I was working on my tablet here, and then my drive quit working in the middle of it. So I was like, well, I guess I'm not getting any work done. That's another liability.
That also might be my space heater because I'm in a basement, so cold down here.
So I was going to ask you with regards to gun. Is that his name? Gunship Thunder? Is that like what a
Thunderpunch? Yeah,
Thunderpunch. Is that like a designated?
Yeah,
name.
Yeah, I won't spoil. There's some spoilers regarding the name, but essentially, yeah.
It's really hard to not spoil it because
yeah.
So is he like a human? Oh, again, spoilers. I suppose I can't really ask you much, but I'm wondering, is he like a human built machine, or is he like Transformers, sort of aliens?
You're gonna have to buy the book, Flat.
he is. I will say he is made by humans. He is sentient, and it was kind of an accident that he's sentient. So he's pretty much as the story now. Here's the thing as I'm going along, because only the fourth or fifth draft of this thing, and it's pretty solid. I'm saying the way it stands right now, he's the only one. I think well, I don't want to get into spoilers.
Yeah.
For now.
Because now I'm actually thinking 2 and 3 books ahead at this point, and so now I'm like, I'll just say right now he's the only one.
Yeah, that's what I love about all this. That's what I love about sci-fi is you can do so much with like the themes and of ethics of humanity versus artificial intelligence, and what makes a person what makes you sentient, what makes you self-aware.
So that's why. That's why, like in that one page, the 2 pages where the zombie, the bots are attacking him, and in that particular scene, the Martian, those are mechs that are kind of they're piloted by Martians, but the pilots are dead, so the machines are just carrying out their last little directives or whatever. And to Thunderpunch, that's a zombie, right? Because he's a machine.
Goes, zombies. Someone's going, they're not zombies.
But they are to him, so it's kind of creepy if you're a robot and there's a mindless kind of robot. No, that just kind of falling apart. Well, that's to you. That's a zombie.
I kind of like that take. I think that's how humans would be. Is if you saw something being like brains, you'd be like zombie. Like
yeah.
Circuitry. Oh, it's a zombie. Machine.
Oil.
Oil. So we'll come up to about we usually do the show for about an hour. We're about
Okay.
up to the hour mark. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
I just hope people will check it out, and if it looks interesting to you, definitely give it a go, or at least share it. And if it's not something you're into, or if money's tight for people, I get that. So sharing is good too. Crowdfunding is crowd promoting as well. These projects don't exist unless everybody comes on board. So I'm trying to get a fun project to you, and check it out.
Definitely.
And if you don't like it, listen, you don't have to buy it. And you can share it. But if you don't like it, if you don't like the concept, you're crazy. That's what I'm going to say.
You don't have to buy it, but if you don't, you're wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it looks really cool. I'm glad we got you on.
Yeah,
I could definitely see Gunship Thunderpunch as like an animated series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Jeez, Flat, he's just got his first book crowdfunded.
Yeah, but I'm completely open to someone buying those rights right now.
Yeah.
Netflix adaptation.
Right, yeah.
Oh no. I say what you will about Netflix adaptations. I enjoyed the Netflix Death Note. I
haven't seen that. I've heard people talk about it.
Thing is, I watched the Netflix one before I then watched the anime, and I liked because obviously it was set in America. In the Netflix adaptation, they had to change some things, but I liked I forget the bloody character's name. Is it Light? Isn't it Light Yagami? The main character.
I don't know. I haven't seen it. So I don't know.
Help me out here, Corey.
I have no idea. I'm not a Death Note fan.
Ah, damn. I think it is Light. But obviously with the Netflix adaptation, the reason why he wants to punish criminals is because his father is a police officer. Like what they kept from the anime, but his mother was murdered in a car robbery. Gone wrong. He was only a small child at the time and saw his mother gunned down in front of him, and I enjoyed that sort of that change that they did from the anime. But yeah, give the Netflix
you have to check it out.
Adaptation a try. People were peed off about the Netflix adaptation disregarded the Shinigami realm, which is it's almost like a sort of hellscape where the Shinigami live.
Right.
They're sort of like these demonic creatures. That's where they live and where they have their own Death Note. But yeah, you guys should watch it.
I think people sometimes are just not gonna like something just because. And I think sometimes adaptations are not my favorite, but I think that sometimes it's just a matter of people have already made up their minds before they've even watched it that it's going to be shit because it's not exact. Now, I'm not saying things shouldn't be really good or whatever, but it's just, I think that's just how things are sometimes.
Yeah. But yep, I would still love a Netflix adaptation of Gunship Thunderpunch.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Money, money, money.
Yeah.
Money.
Not gonna say no.
So, yeah, we're sort of wrapping that up. I suppose to go to final words. The mic is yours, Brian.
Well, I just thanks for inviting me on. Hope to see you guys again, and on Twitter. If y'all aren't following me on Twitter at Brian_Shearer. I don't argue, and I don't light Twitter on fire. If you just want to chill and hang out. And also, I also stream quite a bit when I'm working on YouTube. So we go to youtube.com/Brian Shearer. We have a good time.
Yeah, I'll put all the links in the description.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely follow him on Twitter. I just put that up there. yeah, Nerd Waffle, did you have any sort of final words?
Yeah, I think this is an awesome project. I'm glad that it's funded, but I'd still say go check it out and get it because it's cool. And yeah, it's definitely. I saw this actually in my Twitter feed, and I was like, yeah, we definitely got to have this guy on the show, and so I'm glad we got you on. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thanks. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. The same. Yeah. I wish you all the best. 14 days left, people. Come on, let's help him reach those fixed goals. Yeah, like I said, I wish you all the best, Brian.
Thanks.
And you said, yeah, you're welcome to come back on the show. Because when did it say February 2020?
It's going to be before then.
Okay,
that's kind of my fail safe.
Yeah. But yeah, you're welcome to come on and sort of we'll see like a follow up.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely the seat is always open for you to come back.
Cool, appreciate it.
And to the people watching at home, Jay, he says hopes the comic does well.
Thanks, Jay.
So hopefully, Jay, if you got some spare shekels, send them Brian's way.
Toppins for the birds.
So yeah, with that, it's been the Flat Pack Show. It's been me, Flatmeister. It's been Nerd Waffle.
Remember to hug the person next to you. Be the change you want to see in the world, and keep it toasty.
And it's been Brian.
Howdy. See y'all on the internets.
And we'll catch you in the next episode of the Flatback Shows. Remember, it's every Wednesdays, 11 p.m. GMT. That's about 6 p.m. Eastern. Once again, apologies for not uploading on my channel recently. It's just my chronic pain. Can't be helped. It's just been awful recently. I blame the heat. I blame summer.
You are awful recently. Okay? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Which reminds me, I need to take my medication. So with that, we'll catch you next Wednesday, everyone. Whether you're watching this live now or whether you're watching this later on. And don't forget to check out the rest of the Flat Pack Show playlist. We've got previous episodes of other topics we've discussed or whether we've had guests on. So yeah, we'll catch you in the next video or the next episode. Take it easy. Bye.
Bye.